paper.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 19th, 2024 Town Council meeting. If you'll please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So you will notice tonight that we have a new person on the bench up here with us who was not elected and will not be voting. But it's part of a little initiative that we're doing to introduce our students to public policy and government, and especially elected government, because we do not have many women in this field. And we hope to grow that. And so I'm pleased to welcome Maya, who is a sophomore in college, and she's here to join us this evening. So welcome. You're welcome. So we'll move on to public comment. This portion of the meeting is specifically set aside for comments from the public, who are asked to limit their comments to 2 minutes. Any person interested in providing public comment remotely should email publicmeetings@rockyhillct.gov prior to 4 p.m. on the day of the meeting, at which time a link will be provided to attend the meeting, as well as instructions on how to participate. Anybody from the public?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council, town manager, Dr. Zito. I know they're not here, but I'm going to address them. Dr. Zito and the Board of Ed. The Wethersfield Rocky Hill Elks Lodge number 2308, in partnership with the Central Connecticut Health District, will be conducting our drug awareness and suicide prevention program on Thursday, September 26, 7 to 9 p.m. in the Rocky Hill Town Council chambers. As in the past, we will have a panel of experts. We urge all parents and their families and anybody else is more than welcome to attend this most important event. Unfortunately, I mean, I can't put my finger on it, but I don't think anybody can. But our attendance is absolutely terrible. We publicize it as much as we can, so, you know, try to spread it throughout the town, and Wethersfield, Newington, Cromwell, you know, anybody's welcome. But it's just, it gets a little disheartening when you have an important seminar, if you will, and the only people that show up are town council, or Board of Ed, or a few parents, and maybe a few kids, and mostly Elks members. So anybody that's listening, you're all more than welcome, and because you don't attend, the problem's not going to go away. We don't single anybody out. We're not going to embarrass anybody. I have a family member that was, thank God, it's about 9 or 10 years now he's been clean. I had 2 family members that committed suicide, so there's nothing to be embarrassed about. It happens in every, well, hopefully not, but in a lot of families and throughout the country. So please, we put out a welcome mat, and please attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alan Smith, 112 Old Main Street, and we have on the agenda today old business, the artistic crosswalk. You've heard from me a bunch on this already over the last 4 months, but I just wanted to reiterate why it's important for us to do this. And we have a draft policy. I sent in a copy of that draft with a couple recommended edits, because I think given the time that we've put into this and the generally positive feedback that we've gotten, I think we should just take this framework and use it for any other public art similar to this. You know, basically, this policy is just for artistic crosswalks, but I think if we just scratch that and make it any public art, that could be murals, that could be statues, that could be painting of objects as public art. A lot of our surrounding communities do this, and I think it would save us when somebody comes forth sometime in the future and wants to do a mural, it would save us 4 months of talking about building a policy for that mural if we just make this the public art policy instead. I already did that work for you, Ray and everybody else. So if you want to see my red line, I think I emailed it to you, but also I left a copy here. I really just think it's a no-brainer. We really don't have any other public art here in town, and this will give us the opportunity to do that. And once again, this isn't even approving any specific project. This is just the framework so that somebody can submit a project to do, whether it's on a crosswalk or a mural or, New Britain has their bee statues, and we've got bikes in Weathersfield, and everybody's got some sort of public art except for us. So I think it's time to change that. Thank you.
Joanne, did you have some letters?
Yes, I have 3 public comments. The first one is, to whom it may concern, I am writing to urge you to support a Pride crosswalk in Rocky Hill. I understand concerns that other groups may ask for public signs of support, but right now LGBTQ plus people need support. LGBTQ plus people, especially trans people, are under attack. We are being told that we are abnormal and amoral. Far-right politicians are regularly attacking the validity of trans people to exist, as recently as during the Republican National Convention. Our right to marry those we love, a right granted nationally just 9 years ago by a court decision, is under threat by a Supreme Court that has demonstrated it can upend previously decided law. Many states are banning efforts to address inequity based on sexual orientation and other identities. I hope you agree that every law-abiding resident has a right to feel valued by our communities and safe in our homes. Many LGBTQ plus people do not feel this. Instead, we feel threatened. We deserve public confirmation that we are welcome and valued in Rocky Hill. A Pride crosswalk is an effective way to convey this. I hope that you will allow and fund this important affirmation. Sincerely, Judy Hartland, 202 Star Drive, Rocky Hill. The next one says, to members of the Rocky Hill Town Council, from Anthony Saculo, 58 Jennifer's Way, Rocky Hill. As a resident and voter in Rocky Hill, I would like to voice my support and approval for a colorful Pride crosswalk in Rocky Hill. Our town is fortunate in our diversification, and we should be proud and willing to embrace the various cultures and lifestyles of our neighbors and friends. An artistic crosswalk and public art are a few ways that the town can officially show and embraces everyone this diversity. I understand that this idea was first presented to the town council in the April timeframe. I am a bit surprised that it has been taken so long to adapt a formal artistic crosswalk policy. There are neighboring towns with similar policies, and I would have thought that a friendly phone call would have secured a mature version of a policy that we could have made official in less than 4 months. However, I am appreciative to those members on the town council who have repeatedly brought up this topic and made sure it stayed on the agenda. Please don't let the completion of this policy languish. It is a good and well-meaning concept which is meant to bring the town closer together. With all the discord and conflict we have currently in our country and government, it would be a refreshing change. Thank you for your time and interest. And the last one, it says, dear members of the town council, I hope this finds you all well. I write to support the creation of an artistic crosswalk policy, and I hope that you adopt the suggestions proposed by Mr. Alan Smith. Having a clear, effective policy that enables the creation of art in a public space will be useful for all sorts of town activities, including a Pride crosswalk or other holidays. Best wishes, Derek Kalin, 116 Ridgewood Drive.
Thank you, Joanne.
You're welcome.
Any appointments or resignations, Councilor O'Sullivan?
None on this side, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
None on our side.
Moving on to the approval of the minutes, I think we need to table that as we do not have a quorum.
I'll make a motion to table.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mimi said aye. Okay.
Yes.
Moving on to subcommittee reports, finance.
The Finance Committee met on August 8th. We have a couple of items on the consent agenda this evening. The first is the Board of Education return of funds for capital, non-reoccurring. So the Board of Education is returning to the town $250,000, of which the town is going to return back to the Board of Ed $125,000 for use within the reserve for capital and non-reoccurring fund. Part of the reason for this is during our budget workshops, we received a letter from the state telling them that we were going to receive a large sum of money as a grant. After we passed the budget, the state sent us a letter saying, oops, we made a mistake, and that number changed. So to help keep the Board of Ed balanced within their funds, we'll take $125,000 and use it, allow them to use it towards their capital and non-reoccurring items. I don't know if you're going to have more on that later.
Yeah, during the liaison with the state senator, or state representative, we'll have more discussion.
The second item is the Board of Ed is also returning $200,000 from the School Improvements Fund, which we will put back into the current budget for use in the current year. It was funds that they didn't use in the prior year. We made a motion to move the ARPA funds to the general fund, which that way we could fully utilize them. Those have been used already or plan to be used already. We just have to
Already
actually
used.
issue the checks.
Already used.
The private duty fund, we've taken $150,000 from the private duty fund, and that's going to be transferred to the, to offset the increase in pension costs. And we seem to do that. That's almost an annual occurrence last couple of years. And the last item from that meeting, we took $633,900, and we just made budgetary changes within the line items, zero impact to the budget, just balancing particular accounts within the budget. We then reviewed, let me just pull up the Mona's note. See if I could. I had it open a minute ago. Here we go. So overall, revenues are on target. Tax revenues, we're at a collection rate at 99.5%. We've received all of our state funding. Interest income, it continued to exceed the budget by over $400,000. Our recording fees are slightly behind at 92%. Our conveyance tax is on target, and our building permits are 122% above budget, above target. On the expenditure side, our expenditures are on target. We continue with our part-time and overtime costs exceeding budget, primarily in the property assessment, tax collector, and personnel due to vacancies. Also overtime for police communications is 180% of budget due to vacancies. Police patrol overtime is 150% over due to vacancies. Those costs will be fully offset by full-time salaries. Highway and garage overtime is at 78% and 97% respectively. The overtime used for the remainder of the year should be within the budget. Our tree service is over budget and will be offset by the park grounds budget line items. Equipment repairs, we had a couple of large equipment repairs, trailers, heavy equipment, fire apparatus. Let's see, MDC, so this year during our budget, we finally learned the magic behind how MDC calculates their costs. This is the last year that we had a calculation issue, so the MDC quarterly payment exceeded the budget by $130,000. Like I said, going forward, that should not be an issue because now we know the correct way to calculate it. Our next meeting is September 12th.
Thank you. Government operations?
Government operations met earlier today. Just some updates. First on the town buildings and facilities. They have completed the high school field lighting replacement, and the proof of testing will be tomorrow. Completed the community center gym lighting replacement. 2 hot water heaters in the library have been replaced, as well as 1 hot water heater at the Parks Garage, and 1 hot water heater for furnaces were replaced at the Highway Garage. The Elmridge Park field lights have been completed. The parking lot and basketball court lighting should be done later this week. And the Firehouse 2 rooftop HVAC unit has broken down. It's a 26-year-old unit, so it's too costly to repair. They are targeting an end of August replacement and have reached out to Eversource/RLE on the possibility of adding the project to the Eversource RLE project that we've talked about in previous meetings, and they have accepted and allowed us to do that, which is good for the town. In the meantime, they are using some rental AC units. Hopefully, that's only about 1 month's worth of expenses for that. As far as school updates go, science classrooms at GMS, final inspection is this week, as well as furniture delivery. The man-trap installation at GMS has been completed, and the wiring should be done this week as well, so both those should be done in time for the start of school. There will soon be a meeting to begin the second phase of the HVAC project at Stevens School. And also at Stevens School, the cement pads from the old trailers, if you remember, that used to be there, they are being cleared, and the area is being repaid before school opens. A few parks and recreation updates. The indoor pool has been regrouted. Work was completed by the beginning of camp season. The pickleball courts at Elmridge are 75% done. Concrete is now fully cured and waiting for acrylic coat to be applied the 3rd or 4th week of August. The grand opening is set for September 4th at 5 p.m. And lastly, Maxwell Park work is to begin next month on the roller hockey / basketball courts, and the cricket field groundbreaking will hopefully occur later this week. We do have one item on the consent agenda, the Small Cities grant resolution for the Rock Hill Housing Authority renovation project. This is a project that we had voted on at a previous town council meeting. This is basically a formality just to basically accept the $2 million from the Department of Housing for the Willow Street housing development. And that'll be on the consent agenda. Our next meeting for government operations is scheduled for Monday, September 16th.
Thank you. Moving on to public safety.
We had a public safety meeting this evening. From the fire department side, call volume has been increasing the month of July. All calls from accidents to falls, false alarms, and but we have had enough manpower to cover all the calls. So we're fortunate with that. The chief doesn't know why the call volume's been increased, but they'll look into that and keep an eye on it. From the ambulance, the volunteers, recruitment's been up. The new volunteer ambulance chief has a huge influence on training, so she's put together different training courses, and they're going to be following up, make sure certifications are kept up. The concierge, there was a drowning of a 15-year-old, but a civilian there performed CPR and successfully brought the person back to life. So they are going to do a recognition for that civilian in the near future. There's been a smooth transition with the new chief and her team. There was some new strain of fentanyl that they're watching that's in Middlesex County, where there has been some deaths. In our county, we haven't encountered any of it yet. Hopefully we don't. The police department report, we've had quite a few new larcenies or an increase in larcenies in our town. They were shoplifting incidents, and they are investigating them, and some arrests have been made. A big thing with our police department, though, they were recognized by CALEA standards. They received recognition for that for the second time. So that assists our police department in being recognized, and it helps on our insurance. The health department, COVID cases have been increasing. They're going to be watchful of that, especially as school starts. And they'll be working with the school systems to try to keep them down. And there's been an increase in whooping cough in young people. So vaccinate, they encourage that. And that's the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Senior liaison.
The last senior liaison meeting was canceled. All the meeting members and town staff spoke before the meeting. There was no agenda items, so we meet quarterly. Our next meeting will be October 28th.
Okay. Land acquisition and farmland preservation.
The committee's looking at developing rules and applications for the community garden, as well as a location on the community farm where the community gardens will be. At our last meeting, our town manager had a UConn professor that's going to help us She zoomed in. She has some grad students. They're going to help organize the different paperwork, the locations of the gardens, the layout of the garden. So that's hopefully by winter, this will be all wrapped up, and we'll have applications out for people to apply for a garden spot. That's it.
Thank you. Liaison to the state rep and state senator.
Yes, so I took a little different approach this month, seeing as the General Assembly is not in session, and there were a couple of issues that are particularly important to a lot of Rock Hill residents who have come to me or come to any of us. One was about the aforementioned shortage of funding from the state for the Board of Education project that Councilor Greenspan mentioned. And I reached out to both Representative Wood and State Senator Lesser, and basically didn't get kind of a consistent story as to what's being done. I know Representative Wood is working on a solution, hopefully that with our BOE and the state, to hopefully make up the difference in the next budget cycle, but we don't know if that's going to happen. State Senator Lesser wasn't quite as affirmative as far as there be a solution or not. So my best suggestion is just wait for this next report in the upcoming months to see if we get some sort of resolution on that. The other topic was about the recent spike in Eversource bills that everyone's experiencing. The one item they agree on is primarily due to subsidies for the Millstone Power Plant. That was part of a contract done, I think, in 2017 or something like that. So they think that PURA should have spread the payments out over a longer period of time. But as far as a solution to this, they're probably going to work on it, either have a special session or they'll do it when the General Assembly reconvenes. They'll probably try to work on something, but there's nothing definitive as far as a solution goes at this point. So that's the extent of the report for tonight.
Thank you. We are going to move over school liaison and go to CIP, Capital Improvements Committee.
The Capital Improvements Committee has not had a meeting scheduled. Do we have a date ready for the next meeting, or are we still working on
I
it?
think we're looking at some time in mid to late September,
Okay.
I believe.
And that, again, that's a committee that only meets quarterly. We look at the capital improvements both for the Board of Education and the town.
Okay. And finally, Economic Development Subcommittee.
Again, the Economic Development Subcommittee hasn't met since the last council meeting, but from the last council meeting, we have on the agenda this evening a property tax abatement discussion for Stephanie Place with Conover Residential.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We gotcha. We're going to move on to old business. I'm going to make a recommendation that we swap B and A.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion to amend the agenda so that we can hear B, possible action.
So I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to move old business B before old business item A.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mimi. Okay, so I'm going to now call up some of our guests, and we are going to discuss a request for a 5-year 30% tax abatement on the increased assessed value of real property for construction of a 72-unit, 4-building apartment development on property located at 1800 Silestine Highway, parcel number 4-412, property of Stephanie Place LLC and Conover Residential.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So you just have to state your name and address when you come up, and we'll get started.
Good evening. My name is Newton Brainerd. I'm the Vice President in charge of Development and Acquisition for the Simon Conover Company. And with me tonight is Christine Victor, a colleague of mine in the Development Department as well. Thank you all for taking the time and having us. Very much appreciate a few moments of your time. Is there a packet, Ray? Do they have any of this? Or okay, thanks. Just a little intro and background. I'm going to make this relatively, actually quite brief. The Simon Conover Company is a 60-year-old family-owned real estate company based in West Hartford. We develop, acquire, own, and manage residential and commercial real estate throughout New England, but primarily in Connecticut. Simon Conover the Simon Conover Company and Simon Conover himself was very much involved in the ownership and redevelopment of Stepney Place since 1970. And then in 2018, we added the property next door in 2018, which is Greenfield Village, which is 187 units through the purchase of the property from Equity Residential. So between the two properties, we have 358 units that we manage and own right next to each other at Stepney Place. Taken together, the 358 units pay just under $1 million in annual property taxes. The Simon Conover Company would be pretty easily defined as an old school real estate company, which is in a bit of a contrast to some of the new investment groups who have migrated into the multifamily space over the last cycle. We're longtime holders of real estate, exemplified by the 50 or so years we've been here in Rocky Hill. We specialize in the reinvestment and upkeep of our assets, and that thus creates stability within our community and our ownership. It was with an eye towards this reinvestment in Stepney and Greenfield that we began to think about our expansion efforts in 2022. So I'm going to just take you through a little bit of that. Do I need this, Ray, if I'm going to?
There's one on the chair.
Move?
No, there's one on the chair.
Oh, right, there it is, right, I forgot.
Let's make sure it's on.
Okay. I'm just going to take you quickly through our development to get you situated. So this is Stepney Place. It's 1, as we call it, and behind here is Greenfield Village. So back in 2021, 2022, this part of Stepney, this part of the property, had for many years we had a 7,000 square foot commercial space right here that we rented out quite successfully. Our tenant left. The building was starting to get a bit decrepit. The office market, obviously, for kind of B and C locations has collapsed. So we were trying to figure out what to do with this excess land. So we settled in on a plan that we have before us here that included a 4,000 square foot clubhouse that would be the management and leasing office for the entire complex, and really upgrade the two existing communities that are what I would call B multifamily communities in terms of age, and kind of lift it up against our competitors for the next couple decades. So that's really what our reinvestment is on the ground, which is an amenity space, gym, work from home space, and management leasing in this brand new building. And then the existing commercial gets demolished, and then we sited 3 24-unit, 3-story buildings on the site. And this was all just kind of empty land that was dumping grounds and really undeveloped land. So this is just a picture, little rendering of what it will look like, and this is what the site plan that we got approved in the in May of 22. We actually began our meetings with the town and staff, getting our site plan organized and going through the various steps. And we finally granted site plan approval of this application in June of 23. And at that time, we made no asks of the town. We didn't need anything. We were pretty much ready to go, but for our pricing and our final underwriting. We also, as part of this development and part of our site plan approval, we agreed to making 15% of our units 15% affordable. So that was not a requirement, but it was a negotiated give on our part, which we were happy to do. So everything was going relatively swimmingly, and in the summer of 23, we were completing our final underwriting of our rents and our costs and everything else, and one of those pieces is always the real estate taxes. So we looked to the town and to what communities were much like ours, which the best comps are Altera and Montage, which are relatively new. And so we looked at their taxes and what they're assessed at, and they were on generally about a $3,200 per unit tax. So we took that as a reasonable way to underwrite our taxes going forward. And then kind of late in 2023, we started hearing that the reval that had come out had hit multifamily quite hard. And once the actual numbers came out in January and February, we looked again at Montage and Altera, and to our dismay, they had a 100% increase in valuation. So we were getting caught up in the kind of backwater of a historic reassessment of multifamily assessments that was difficult to predict. So when we put that information into our model, instead of having taxes projected at approximately $3,200 based on current conditions, the 100% valuation increase and the keeping the mill rate the same, which I know it wasn't going to, was going to double the underwritten taxes from $3,200 to $6,500. So, we knew there was a little bit of massaging going around, and we knew the mill rate was going to drop to some degree, but we didn't know how much. And we thought potentially Altera and Montage might come down a little bit in the negotiation. But we met with the mayor and general manager, town manager, in March of '24 to kind of discuss potential options, because we've never been into the town to ask for anything before, and we settled in on the business incentive tax abatement program. And so, working with the subcommittee, we met a couple months ago, and got a referral up to all you guys. As Montage and Altera came down a little bit, and the mill rate came down a little bit, it's still settled in at a number that was around $4,500 for us on a per unit basis, which is about 50% higher than we had underwritten. So it's a real decoupling from our expense that was something that we just couldn't count on. So we essentially have applied for a 5-year 30% tax abatement that would allow us time to have our revenue grow into the higher tax number. And that's really what we're asking for, is just to give us time to allow that to happen. Important to know, the taxes that we are hoping to be able to pay as part of the abatement is really the 100% of the underwritten taxes that we are going to pay. So it's $3,200 or $3,300 a unit, which is $225,000 a year. So that's really what the ask is from us tonight. And I'm happy to take any questions. I appreciate your time and careful consideration.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, a couple of questions. Thank you. Can you tell us what the projected rents would be? And I know you have to, it's a little bit of crystal ball gazing because it's a couple of years out before you actually have your CO. But
Yep.
Both market and the so-called affordable units, what are you projecting? Or at least if you tell me what the delta is between the approximate delta is between the market ones and the affordable ones.
I'm not I don't know if I can give you the affordable off the top of my head sitting here today. I can give you the market. I think it's 21 for a 1-bedroom and 27 for a 2-bedroom. I think Christine can probably pull it up. I'm guessing it's 1,600 for a 2-bedroom, something like that. But I will get it for you in a second.
Okay. And I don't know if this question is better directed to you or to Ray. If we have had any analysis of the estimated impact of this project on school population?
I go back to my analysis that I put together 2 years ago, a year ago. No, for Kelson Row. Montage and Altera are the only two models we can look at for this project. In between the two developments, there are 11 to 14 public school-age children. So you're talking about a ratio of maybe 0.20 children per unit, because these types of units are high amenity, high value, and they typically produce much less children than, let's say, Glenbrook, the Elms, or Concierge. They were older, they were larger, and they're not amenitized as these newer units are.
So the estimate is about 0.2 per unit times the 72 units here, so about 14 school-age kids?
Yeah, that's a good estimate for 72 units.
I was just give you our data, which we built a bunch of these very similar architecture and size buildings in Connecticut, in suburban Portland, Maine, which is a very similar community. And we're getting about 1 child for every 10 units. So it's not terribly different, but significantly less than, significantly fewer than, for instance, the current Stempney has many, many more children than that ratio. It's the way these apartments are set up. They lend themselves to people coming into town, living, younger people, having the first child, and then going to, buy a single-family home, which we see a lot of when interest rates aren't so high. But
Okay. Just one more question.
Sure.
One of the points that you emphasized was, the local nature of the Conover enterprise, which I agree is a plus. But to kind of lock that in for present purposes, would you be, and maybe this is already part of the proposal, and if so, forgive me for overlooking it, but would you be agreeable to a proviso that if the property is sold out of the Conover umbrella, that the tax abatement would then be void?
I think we would be agreeable to that.
Okay, thank you.
We had no thoughts of selling it.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. That's my last question. Thanks. Unless do you have did you get the data that I requested on the rents?
Yes, I did. It's approximately $1,500 for a studio and $1,600 for a one-bedroom for the affordable units.
For one bedroom? Okay, so the affordables are all studios and one bedroom.
Correct.
And what's the breakdown of the 72 between studio 1 and 2?
It's about 55-45 from 2 to 2. There are a couple, there's like 7 threes, and then, do you have it?
Yep, so approximately 50% two bedrooms, 18 of the 72 are one bedrooms, and then we have 9 studios and 9 threes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
John, have any questions?
No, I'm just kind of pondering the,
Sorry, just keep going.
go ahead.
Okay. Thanks for coming back again. So, and we talked a little bit about this, so I just want to understand. So, we're in a scenario where obviously property values went up drastically. Mm-hmm. The property taxes went up drastically as a result. So, I think we're all aware of that. Wouldn't the rents, especially in a scenario where these are not already leased, like I understand if you already had these leased, you're in a 1 or 2, maybe even 2-year lease, you're kind of locked into those rates. But seeing that these are going to go for whatever market rates are when you get the CO, presumably 1 to 2 years, wouldn't the market rates allow you to get the revenue to cover the increase in the taxes?
Definitively not quickly, which is why I'm asking for the 5-year schedule. I mean, typically, a couple of things. Typically, if you're underwriting a project over 10 years, you will conservatively put your revenue increase at 2.5% to 3%. Now, through COVID and everything else, it's been crazy. It's been up and down and sideways. We typically, the way we operate and manage apartment communities, we have been behind the curve in terms of we don't jack them up when you can 15%, and because we'd rather just go steady Eddie. We think it's a better way to manage for the long haul. It's certainly better for our communities and our tenants. So we tend not to push rents that quickly. And could you do it? You could, but you might not be able to.
But this is a scenario where you don't have existing rents. So
no, we have existing rents. Yeah. So essentially what we do is we have to put ourselves, we're going to be slightly below Kelson Row. They're a bigger, standalone community. We're going to be hopefully right at Montage and Altera. And, quite honestly, the rents in the last 8 to 10 months haven't really moved. They go up and down a little bit, but there's not a real trajectory like it was in 21 to 22 where everything was going up 8 to 10%. So I'm pretty comfortable with my 3% per year, rents going up, but, I wouldn't bet that it's going to go a lot faster than that. they're pretty high. I mean, if you look at rents overall, they're crazy high compared to 3 years ago. So eventually, you know, you have a dwindling amount of people that can pay higher and higher rents. I mean, it becomes a problem. The flip side is that, you know, it's hard to live anywhere now because of interest rate costs and home ownership. So. But we tend to be much less aggressive than other owners.
Well, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going by memory with some of my questions, but they're from almost 2 months ago.
Yep.
So one of the items we talked about, I believe, and I may have the names wrong, there was Stephanie Place, and this is Stephanie Place 2.
It'll be named something else, but we're working on
Okay.
that. Yes.
But the concept of affordable housing, all the units won't be within the new development. It's going to
Correct.
be mixed across the two.
Correct. Over the two. Right. 3 in Stephanie Phase 2 and 8 in Phase 1.
Okay.
And we negotiated that during our site plan approval to give a few more if we could put them in the other building.
Okay. But just to be clear, the abatement incentive is just towards
It's
the new
just
development.
on Stephanie 2. Yep.
Okay. And the other question, just, you know, we're talking about the property taxes that went up, and you've mentioned a couple of times interest rates have gone up. And mid-September, we're kind of anticipating interest rates going the other direction, or at least starting that. How does that play into kind of your calculation and numbers, not knowing what the rate change is going to be, but
Right.
the anticipations?
I mean, I think anybody in the real estate business is hoping they're going to go down a little bit. It's been very difficult to do what we do with it in a high interest rate environment, both on the construction interest loan and then getting a permanent loan is much more difficult than it used to be because of debt service coverage ratio with a higher coverage and higher interest rate. You can take fewer proceeds basically. So you have to put a lot more cash in than you used to. It will help. How quickly it happens, you know, there's a lot that goes into it, but it needs to come down, you know, 200, 300, 400 basis points to give real relief to, you know, people buying homes and us on a meaningful basis. I think it will eventually, but it's going to take a while.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Thoreau, would you like to say anything? Okay, we're going to come back. So I'm going to ask some sort of questions with respect to value to the community. Okay, so when we look at the criteria, and we look specifically at number 4, which is the project must create and/or retain jobs within the town. Hi, Mimi. We'll come back to you. And this project isn't producing any jobs, and I suspect it's because it doesn't have that commercial component. Correct.
Correct.
So I don't know how we get past that, right? Because typically, the abatement would have some type of commercial component, and then there is a value to the community by the jobs created.
Sure. I think on two bases, it helps on a commercial point of view. Based on the rents that we're going to be collecting and the incomes of the people we are going to rent to, it will be those median incomes family incomes will be above the town of Rocky Hill's average median income, and those folks that are going to live in this new community are going to have a bunch of disposable income that they're going to spend up and down the Silas Deane Highway and support all of the local businesses and keep jobs and keep storefronts open. So I think it has proven in community after community where we built these to be a great source of economic driver to bring in, you know, basically higher income earners that will spend disposable income in the retail and commercial places up in the town. And then the second part, it's not really a defensive thing, it's an offensive thing. We're reinvesting in our community there to bolster both the existing Stephanie 1 and the existing Greenfield so they compete better over the long term, which again, you know, instead of having two apartment communities that we don't invest in that kind of slowly die and become problems, it's raising, you know, both of those boats for the long term, which has definitively an impact economically and commercially in this community.
Okay. And then with respect to the additional criteria for consideration, number 1, strategic value to the community, that wasn't answered. So is that your answer to
That's
that
pretty
one?
much my answer.
Yeah.
It'd be the same, yep.
Gotcha. Okay. And then it says the project was approved in June 2023. And you have your revised bid sheet. On that bid sheet, how many, if any, of those items have gone to bid so far?
We are, they've all gone to bid.
They have?
All gone, yep.
Okay. And then this, I guess this one is, you said, I wrote it down.
That's right.
So, you know, the reval hit multifamily quite hard, and you kind of got caught up in an historic reassessment. And I think every resident in the town of Rocky Hill shares that with you, right? And so that's sort of where my issue is. In my mind, I don't know how we justify that to the residents that, yeah, you're suffering, and we tried like heck to lower the mill rate as low as we could without, you know, jeopardizing services. And we do have other developers who are at a similar stage like you are, who are going to be building apartments and apartments only, no mixed use component to it. And then where does that leave us with them? And I don't know where we can draw that bright line. It just doesn't seem fair to me. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Sure. I think that, I've tried to be pretty honest with you in the way we do business, and we underwrite our projects, you know, pretty aggressively and pretty, we spend a lot of time on it, and we literally just got caught up in this, in the reassessment of your entire town, but of multifamily as well. So it was difficult. It would have been almost impossible to pick a number that we could have relied on because it was all over the map. And we are going to be contributing $225,000 starting day one once we finish, which is a benefit to everybody in the town, as opposed to not doing it and having, you know, a building that's demolished and just some open land. So it's really, I think it's just a kickstart for us to help us catch up to the, you know, taxes that are 50% higher than we anticipated. And again, but for that, we wouldn't be here. We haven't asked for anything from the town, and love being a partner in this town and doing our part at our community. So I'm just honest. That's all I can be.
Thank you. Councilor Thoreau? You have to put your speaker on, microphone.
We're not hearing you.
She's looking for her microphone. Something is moving on our side.
Yeah, he's working on it.
I think she's texting one of you. Maybe you could put something in the chat too, and I can move to Fran.
Or she can text your question to Bill.
I don't think she could do that. Yeah.
See, she's on mute though.
Can you see if she's on mute?
It looks like she's on mute. Can they unmute her here?
She's off mute.
That's still not working. She's off mute.
Ray, do you think that's an issue on our side?
I think IT
Ryan's
is
got
checking it out right now.
Oh, okay. All right, let's go to Councilor Whalen, and then we'll come back, Mimi. Well, we're checking with IT.
Thank you. I do have some of the same concerns as our mayor. I mean, with this reeval and our taxes, our whole town and our whole communities feeling a pinch with the increase that everybody has to go through to pay the taxes. I guess an alternative for you is not to start the project or reconsider another time if you're feeling it's that detrimental for you if you don't get this abatement. Has this project started yet? Is it underway?
We have cleared the land.
Okay.
If we end up going forward and wait, we're going to cost ourselves more than the value of the tax abatement in winter conditions. So we started clearing land, and depending on what happens tonight, we'll either, we have to talk to our lender and maybe just build a clubhouse, or maybe just leave it empty. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Was the building demolished?
Yes.
We think the technical difficulty is on Mimi's end, not our end.
So she did text me to ask the question, what are the current taxes on the property?
The current taxes on Stepney Place are it's almost $1 million between the two. I think it's $550 for Stepney Place 1, which includes this property, and then Green.
The million, that included Greenfield?
Million includes Greenfield.
Okay, but
just Stepney Place, which includes this land because it's one lot.
Yep.
Is $550,000, which obviously went up.
And the bump under your proposal would be about another $250,000 on top of that?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Which is the abated number.
Right.
Yep.
Councilor Emanuel, do you want to wrap up, or you have nothing left to say?
No, waiting for discussion after the motion.
Okay.
Does maybe have any other questions?
I think she would have texted Bill.
Well, her last text was that now she can't hear either.
Jeez.
Which means we don't really have a quorum right now.
She can call in. Maybe she can call in and on a cell phone and
She log out,
participate.
just logging back in again first. I would try that.
Yeah.
Well, she was working before without her video.
Yeah.
Wait, how many are we? 1, 2, 3?
We have
No,
6.
we have 6 without me. Oh, right. Mimi is the 7th, so we do still.
But
You
does
know, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here.
But can she log off and log back in, maybe?
Can you hear us now, Mimi? I did not get a response, so I guess not. All right, I'll suggest you log out and log back in.
She can't hear us now either.
Right. Okay, I just texted her to log out and log back in. That helps.
I mean, I can call her if you want to have her on audio.
All right, well, why don't we put the motion on the table, and at least Councilor Emanuel can start talking.
Well, can we wait for her so she can hear it, though?
Yeah, she can't hear.
Oh, she can't hear? I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Hey, can I put you on audio? For, speaker? Okay, let me put you on. Okay, let me put you on speaker. We're gonna make a motion. Okay. All set.
Okay.
Oh, you want me to do it? Oh. I don't know if I have it in front of me. Hold on. Bear with me.
Just before you make the motion, Ray, didn't you have a recommendation, a memo with a recommendation?
Yeah, it's in the document.
Right here.
What was
You
your,
have the memo. It's the last page,
Let me read it to you.
right here.
So,
It's the back. He's got it.
do I have it?
Yeah, no, it's not the final. It's right here.
Gotcha.
yeah, my recommendation is if the commission, or I'm sorry, if the
The council.
the council, yes, is inclined to make a recommendation to approve, then what follows would be my recommendation. But I'm not recommending to the town council that you either approve it or not approve it at this point.
I can't find the wording for this.
Do you want my sheet?
Yeah. Oh, just read off. Okay. So I'd like to make a motion with regards to request for a 5-year 30% tax abatement on the increased assessed value of property, of real property for construction of a 72-unit, 4-building apartment development on property located at 1800 Silestein Highway, parcel number 04-412, property of Stepney Place LLC and Conover Residential.
Can I propose a friendly amendment?
Okay.
I move that that motion be amended to conform to the recommendation memo we received from the town manager, that the abatement be for a period of 3 years rather than 5 years. And I recommend further that if the abatement is granted in any form, that the abatement be voided if the property is sold to a third party.
So for me to accept the friendly amendment, so I'll accept the friendly amendments. Need a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
There we go.
And
Oh.
that just concerns amendment of the motion, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so any discussion on that?
Discussion on the whole thing, right?
All right. All in favor? No, we're doing it.
Oh,
We're,
of the friendly
we're
amendment.
amending. We're amending.
So
You're
we're
doing
just
it?
approving the
This
friendly
motion
amendment.
only
Yeah.
approves the
Yeah.
friendly
I
amendment.
got you.
Got it.
Okay.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What did Mimi say?
She doesn't have any more questions.
No,
She's just
How did she vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mimi, are you in favor of the friendly amendment to the motion?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. And now we need a motion.
What do you think? So, well, we accept the friendly motion, now we just need a second for the whole.
Second of the motion as amended, I guess?
yeah.
That's what we're looking for?
Can I jump in for a minute?
Yeah.
There are a couple of more, at least 2 more items that I would, if you are going to approve this, I think you should implement. Especially number 1, Stepney Place or its legal entity or co-owner agree to waive their right to file a tax appeal on real estate taxes for 3 years following the abatement period. That's a standard condition that we put on all of our abatements since 2006.
Was your motion to accept Ray's recommendation, or it was a specific? I don't recall now. It was specific.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, that's a fair point, because I said my motion was to amend it in accordance with the town manager's recommendation, and then I mentioned specifically the limitation of 3 years rather than 5 years, but I did not talk about the other elements of Ray's memo.
That's clear then.
I don't know that we necessarily need what Ray is saying, though, because it's standard language in all of our abatements.
No,
It's not?
we add it.
We
We
add
add
it.
it to each abatement.
Oh,
Yeah.
So it needs a further, so the motion needs a further
Oh,
friendly amendment?
just let me double check that because it's been a while.
Okay, so got to propose a further friendly amendment?
Let's make it more complicated.
So, Madam Mayor, I propose a further friendly amendment, that the proposed tax abatement include the proviso that, as a condition of approval, that the owner of the property agrees to waive its right to file a tax appeal on the real estate taxes for the 3 years following the abatement period. So that would include the abatement period and then include the 3 years afterwards.
Correct. Not yet, not yet.
and what about 2?
And the further proviso that the abatement make explicit that it does not apply to the existing Stepney Place apartments, Stepney Place 1.
Is that second?
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Herder.
You said that.
And now we need a second
Second
on.
for the overall motion.
Okay, I'll second the overall motion.
Okay. And now we'll open it up for discussion.
Mr. Archer?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your comments, and I certainly appreciate your perspective on the need for an abatement on this type of construction. I think the broader question that I've been grappling with is the current state of our town and the number of apartments that we currently have. If someone can correct me to say that Rocky Hill is below the average of towns our size in the state, of having the number of apartments per capita. I think we have an excess of apartments. And what we do need is more commercial tax incentives for more businesses to come into town versus apartments. I think the Kelson Row tax abatement set a very dangerous precedent that the town the taxpayers are going to be paying for a couple of years. And I think the broader question of does Rocky Hill need more apartments, my personal perspective is no, and therefore I can't support a tax abatement for this particular project or any future apartments that are going up on open space or vacant land. If there's a conversion of an office building to apartments, that could be a separate conversation for an abatement. But as far as new apartments, I can't support that.
I'm next. So I think a broader issue that we have to address, and that I think many towns have to address, is in the current economic climate where demand for commercial is so diminished, how do we grow the grand list? Before this most recent revaluation, the real estate component of our town's grand list was essentially flat for 4 years. And we, you know, we have to address that. And again, as I alluded to, in the current climate, we all recognize that the ideal is to build it up through additional commercial development, but the economic climate just doesn't support that right now, and it does not appear it's going to support that in the foreseeable future either, as we have this great really consolidation on the commercial side as people work from home. We just don't really see that dramatically reversing for the foreseeable future. So I am not crazy about the idea of incentivizing apartment construction with incentives like this, but I'm open to it in this context for a couple of reasons. It is distinguishable from Kelson Row, which I was vociferously opposed to, but it is readily distinguishable from the Kelson Row abatement, which basically had a very long period of almost no additional tax revenue for the town, almost 7 years or so, and then stepping down for a period of another 3 years after that. That was a very, very long wait period for any economic benefit for the town. This one, we will have an immediate economic benefit as soon as the CO is issued. We'll have the projection of about $250,000 right away, so which is not as good as the full amount, but I guess my sense here is let's not allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. So with some reservations, I do believe that the motion on the table as amended is something that I personally feel like I can live with. I would be inclined to support. And again, I'm not crazy about it, but I do feel that to get anything built in the current climate or anything that's going to grow our tax base, we're going to have to swallow hard on some of these requests to allow things to get done. So that said, it's my intention to vote affirmatively for this motion as amended.
Is Mimi going to go, or?
Mimi, do you have any comments?
I think I agree with Bill that the $250,000 in taxes that we would be receiving, and I think with it's a shorter period of time that I think I can vote for it.
That's
Okay, thank you.
Again, thank you for coming in. I think we all appreciate what Conover does in town, and you've been a good resident. First of all, just not to rehash the whole Kelson Row thing, but they're kind of apples and oranges projects. Much bigger project on land that had hazardous waste on it for 20 plus years undeveloped. Kelson Row, after the abatement, will probably be the second or third largest taxpayer in town. Okay. End of that. And that's not doesn't mean you should or shouldn't get it. I'm just kind of saying that they're almost not even comparable. I just have, as much as I would like to support this because I like to see progress, I just think it's a tough precedent for anyone who's giving apartments. We have to give an abatement to. It's a tough precedent for the other, as the mayor said, the other residents in town who had to endure increased property values. The two complexes you mentioned have to endure this as well, and they're not getting a break. So it's just tough for me to be able to support it as much as I would like to see the project go forward. I think it's probably a worthwhile project and all, but I just have trouble trying to just support an abatement for it is all it is. But I think the project itself is worthwhile, but an abatement, I just don't know if I can support.
I guess I'll kind of echo some of the statements. As we mentioned when at the economic development meeting, we thought that it was worthwhile as a 50-year taxpayer in town, bringing this forward to the full council for a decision. You've definitely been a good corporate citizen over the years, but I kind of look at my role here as I have to listen to what residents of Rocky Hill are telling me, and residents of Rocky Hill are 100% opposed to abatements. I mean, I'm still hearing about the Kelson Row project, and I 100% agree that's a different project. That was a piece of land that was vacant for 20 years. We went through many reiterations to get it developed, and that was an opportunity to use one of the tools in our toolbox, which was the abatement. Here, I think it's the need for the abatement is somewhat marginal. I think that in the long term, the project is sustainable. The ROI may be a little bit longer out, but I can't support the abatement at this time.
Councilor Whelan?
I have to echo the last two councilors as well. I've got a lot of calls from citizens in our town that are totally against the abatement of any means at this time for this project. We're all dealing with tax increases, and other apartments in town haven't had that opportunity just because they're already built, and they're going to have to increase with the revals. So I cannot support this abatement as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think I echo, I think, what everyone has said tonight, and very, very much appreciate your partnership with our community. And I do think that density is necessary, and that's why Kelson Row was so important to our community, because it brought the density, but it also brought the commercial component, which this project does not. And while I appreciate that those apartment dwellers will utilize our businesses, our services that are along the side of the Steen Highway, that's assuming that they have money in their pocket. And with inflation today, I just don't see that happening. And my concern is seeing more businesses close, frankly. And I have to tell you, in all honesty, we do have so many developments that are in the queue right now, and we cannot afford to give them all abatements. And so how do we pick yours over the others? That's my biggest struggle. I don't know how we do that. I don't see, they're all exactly the same, residential with a little bit of affordable and no commercial. And for that reason, I have to say that I can't support it. All right, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Where's Mimi?
I'm not used to this. Mimi, how are you voting? Mimi, how are you voting?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, any opposed? Aye. Any abstentions? None. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay, we're going to move on to discussion and possible action, artistic crosswalks. Were we having an attorney tonight?
Our attorney is at another night meeting, and
That's right.
Yeah, and
That's
he
right.
did move things around. He was hoping to be here around 8. I texted him a couple of minutes ago saying that we were still here.
Okay.
So
Well, let's just continue then.
this draft you have,
Yeah.
Rich Roberts redrafted the original to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I made two tweaks that he reviewed
Okay.
and approved.
Okay. But I still think we need to wait for him. So you want to table that? Can I have a motion to table that? Or do we not need to table it? Can we just skip?
Or can we just move
Move
new
it.
business up to?
Yeah. Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we move, after old business A, we move new business A, regional hazard mitigation and climate adaptation plan update.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are now on new business, regional hazard mitigation and climate adaptation plan update.
Okay, give me a second.
Okay.
Okay. For quite a few years now, CROG has been responsible for preparing a regional hazard mitigation plan. This is the third update that I've been involved in. They're updated every 5 years. This year, CROG is utilizing a different consultant to update the plan. I assembled a team of individuals to meet with this consultant to go over our last update. We reviewed everything that we had put input from the last update and did some minor tweaks and all reviewed those tweaks. As required by FEMA, the draft plan was posted on our website as well as the other 38 towns that are the other 37 towns that are involved did the same. So basically, this is just another type of it's a formality, but it's a more important formality to update the plan. And you know, we had the fire chief, police chief, the director of community development / town engineer, town planner who was also representing EMS services, fire marshal, building official, superintendent of highways, and director of finance and operations, all contributing to the update. And basically the same positions that did the previous two updates. So what I have before you is a required resolution in order to adopt this update. Adopting the regional hazard mitigation plan allows the municipality access to FEMA grants. Without updating the plan, we do not have access to grant money. So with that, the attached resolution hopefully could be approved. I can submit it back to CROG and then get that posted and, you know, out of the way.
You want to put a motion on the table?
Can I just mention a minor typo?
Can you do that during discussion?
I can do it during
Yeah.
discussion if you want.
Let's put a motion on the
No,
table.
this is a form. This was a form I received from CROG, so not my fault this time.
That's Eagle Eye, Councilor Levine.
Yeah. Okay, I can find me.
Yeah.
Want to make the motion there, Eagle Eye?
Yeah, hold on. I got to bring the other thing up here. Okay. I'd like to make a motion for the council to pass the updated regional hazard mitigation and climate adaptation plan.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Just a quick minor typo. Does that mean we still approve it if we want? But bottom of page 3, third bullet point, Silas Dean. Dean should have an E after it.
This is in the resolution?
This is in the. Is that the well?
Or is it in the mitigation plan?
Maybe it's in the plan.
No.
Yeah.
We'll check into that.
Okay. Just don't want anything to backfire down the road, and you know. It's like,
Just have a quick question about the plan. They say the high school is our main shelter place in town,
Yeah.
but town staff says that may change. Do you know why they're not considering keeping it there? It's the biggest building.
Because we have the community center, and also if it interferes with school.
Okay,
So, you know, it was an option.
thank you.
Anyone else?
I guess just broadly, is there anything that differs significantly from the old plan that we should be, you know,
No, we put an emphasis on infrastructure update because of the excess of rainfall we have been experiencing and the undersizing of drainage structures over the past few decades are not adequate anymore. So that kind of couples with the recommendation in the past for a townwide drainage infrastructure study.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, was that from the computer?
Yes.
Oh, she's back.
Yes, I logged out twice and finally got in correctly.
Good.
Welcome back.
I was trying to stall for the attorney to
John, you can
get
disconnect.
All right. Well, should we do the mayor's report and the town manager's report?
Sure.
You have to make a motion for that?
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend the agenda to next go to item 10, the mayor's report, followed by item 11, the town manager's report.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Well, we had another tremendously successful community market season, and I want to thank all of our sponsors this year, all of the new vendors and the existing vendors who come out and make it a great event, and of course our Parks and Rec department and Rita and Walt and the whole crew who spend so much time bringing folks in and getting the grounds ready and setting everything up. And so thank you for another wonderful year. Recently, I think something was in our packet about this. There was some approval for some new safety systems to be installed on I-91 at exit 24 here in town. That's our Rocky Hill exit. Because of the high risk freeway entrance ramp and to prevent wrong way crashes. And I just wanted to thank the governor for responding to this problem, and Connecticut DOT, who are always there to keep our roads safe. I think what we need to work on now is finding a way to slow down that dangerously fast traffic that exists from Weathersfield to Cromwell. We tried to work with DOT a couple of years ago, and we were told that signage is not an issue. There are no design defects on the highway. Despite the number of crashes and the number of times that our fire department is up there, we did have some temporary state troopers positioned out there last year, I think it was. That it worked, but still people are flying and it's incredibly dangerous. And so I'm hoping that we can connect again with DOT and state police and come up with a permanent solution on that stretch of highway. I'd like to thank everyone who came out and attended coffee and conversation with me and Representative Wood at the Dream Cafe. It was the last day of the cafe, and they're taking a little bit of a break, and they'll be back when the school year starts. There were tons of exciting events that happened at the Capitol during the month of August. There was a celebration of India Day. There was a celebration of Pakistan Day. And just the other night, there was an event with the AAPI community, and it focused on education and the new curriculum and how it impacts students and the need to teach AAPI history and have resources and make sure that everyone is, feeling welcomed and feeling part of their school communities. And they had a wonderful panel of student speakers who talked about their experiences in school as members of the AAPI community. And I was super excited to be invited there as an honorary legislative caucus member because we have such a huge AAPI demographic here. And so I'm excited to attend those events. The Harvard Business Journal has been busy writing about Rocky Hill and its growth. There have been some major sales of big businesses, business offices, and also a huge expansion of one of our largest office space buildings to include using it once again as office space, which is really positive because, as Councilor O'Sullivan was saying, most people are working from home, and it's these landlords and owners of these large office spaces here in Rocky Hill have really tried to reimagine what to do with this space. And really one of the only things that often comes to mind is more housing. So we were very, very excited to see the expansion of one of our businesses here to utilize a much larger office space footprint. There is a thing called Niche. It's an online search tool, and last year it gave us some super high ratings for being, the best community for young business people and folks just getting started out. This year we got those very same high rankings, and we also were way up there with respect to being a fantastic place for people to retire. So that's wonderful news.
Yeah, that was quite a write-up. That was really
nice. Town Center West, some exciting news. They are actively marketing a beautiful commercial addition to the back. So this is phase 2 of Town Center West. It's all commercial. They'll be coming in front of EDC tomorrow evening, and they're going to be showing their plan. And State Representative Wood and I are going to be putting together sort of a business expo, if you will, to showcase some of the properties that exist for developers, as well as to give business owners tips to work with them to see what they need from us, equally important, right? To talk about break-ins. The police department is working on some information for them relative to, smash and grab and things like that. So stay tuned for that. The Festa, the Italian Festa. The Italian Festa is 2 days this year, September 7th and 8th at Elm Ridge Park. So there's going to be posters out, and you can find information on our website or on our social media. The CCM, Public Safety, Public Health, and Human Services Public Policy Committee is starting up again. And so I'm happy to be a member of that. And we'll be taking some recommendations from our police and volunteer ambulance and fire department, particularly with respect to recruitment and retention. And hopefully we can once again put those legislative recommendations forward and hopefully receive a response from lawmakers. And I think that's about it.
Attorney Roberts said 10 minutes.
Okay.
So that was about 11 minutes ago.
Okay.
So should I start on my report?
Yeah.
Read slowly, Ray.
Unfortunately, it's a longer report than normal. These are some, this report, the information in this report is gathered from a new process that I implemented with department heads monthly to give me a reading of what they're doing and how they're doing against some of their goals. But what I've listed here are some of their activities and some of the statistics within their department. Just quickly, excuse me. The Community Resilience Planning Workshop, that's that planning service we are receiving from the Nature Conservancy via Sustainable CT, via Sustainable Rocky Hill. They are putting together a more of an environmental assessment plan and natural resource protection plan for the town, which we'll be using for the update of the Plan of Conservation and Development. It's a component that is really a large part of the Plan of Conservation and Development, and it will save us quite a bit of money on a consultant with this particular plan. A workshop is set for August 28th via Zoom from 9 to noon, and there are a number of participants that have been notified. The library threw some figures at me which were pretty impressive. There were 1,809 participants in programs and events that they hosted this month only. There were almost 21,000 checkouts of library material in July, including some physical as well as digital material. There were 693 reference and research inquiries in July, and library staff saw 10,361 visits in July. A lot of activity at our library. A few items in the Human Services Department. I'd like to, no, I'll read them all. Some of their key events included our Cops and Kids, Stress Busters, Intergenerational Garden, the community garden, Meet the Senior Specialist event, and Hope After Loss group. They are planning what they have termed a prevention palooza at Elmridge Park on September 19th from 5 to 8 p.m. This event is focused on bringing the residents and staff together with the community to provide psychoeducation regarding addiction, primarily focused on opioids, and we'll be utilizing some of the opioid payment monies that we've received over the past year and a half or 2 years. We'll have more information and some printed material and some digital material for advertising and getting people out. Human resources, legal compliance and risk management. The Human Resources Director has worked with leadership of the Police Department and Fire Department to facilitate development of a promotional process for their command level staff. That's currently scheduled for the fall and winter of 24, coming up very shortly. HR has managed the hiring process now for the new deputy fire marshal, as well as the part-time economic development and business manager, and has completed the reclassification process for union positions, asked me union positions to align those positions with the proper job classes and to recognize the increased complexity and responsibility of the work that they've been doing for a few years now, and now they have been properly positioned. I'm going to cite these 3 bullets for the Finance Department quickly in hopes that I will not be interrupted by the Finance Director. The Finance and Operations Director finalized the printing of the budget, finally, and the setup of all full-time employees for the new state insurance and health insurance plan, including all of the deduction rates, and has been in preparation now for probably a month already on the year-end closeout and the final audit field work, which will run from September 2nd to September 14th, and that's currently in progress. A few bullets in engineering. As you all know, they are paving Autumn Circle, Winter Lane, Fox Hill Drive, France Street, Skyview, and Tenrod. Final pavement will be in August. They're managing upgrades to the handicap ramps on all these roads to meet the current ADA requirements. We are required to upgrade all of our ramps in town in conformance with the new ADA requirements that came out recently. And they're installing a new sidewalk in Winter Lane, which they already have, to fill the gap and complete that loop with Fox Hill and France Street. Again, meeting a goal of improving sidewalk network. I'm not going to make it a habit of having a 3-page report like this in the future. But luckily it's working out well for us as far as time management goes. The director Gina has developed a membership satisfaction survey. And the survey was sent via email with hard copies available as well. And the deadline for the responses was August 1st, 24th, and I don't know the result of that survey yet. Additional wall padding has been installed at the gym for safety purposes, especially for pickleball. And in an effort to boost the summer sales of the gift shop, the Landing gift shop, they are displaying merchandise in the lobby now, as opposed to just in the store. Hopefully this will increase the visibility and interest and maybe boost some of their sales. Highway and sanitation, of course, they've been busy all summer. The community farm construction project, they helped out tremendously with the grading and stabilization and brush clearing, and they're not finished yet. They have to do some final work, and then they will probably be somewhat involved in the community garden work. They stabilized the West Street slope for the construction of the new sidewalk that was put in. And they've been removing trees and debris in the culvert on Hog Brook and along the railroad, and trees in the stream at Beach Road, and in every other culvert they have inspected, as well as cleared catch basins into preparation in anticipation of additional rain. They have removed the asphalt sidewalk at the high school tennis courts, and they've replaced that with new asphalt. And they've made some catch basin repairs in Spina Ridge, Fawn Run, and Corporate Place. Bulky waste removal for residents have at curbside. That process now has been modified. We're attempting to reduce travel time and as well as emissions, but also increase some efficiency at bulk pickup. And we now have instituted a zone process where residents will call in, and if they're in one of the zones, they have a particular pickup date for that zone, instead of our guys running all over town haphazardly. And the transfer station now is open until 7 p.m. on Thursdays, until it gets dark. Then that's normal schedule will be for the winter. And IT, they've started implementing an employee notification system upgrade because the old server is no longer supported. And they're starting to replace some of the computers that were not certified to run Windows 11. We have a few of those still in the building. And as you know, we are working with with FOP, the Fraternal Order of the Police, for their contract revisions. We're in the final stages. We'll hope to be something back to you for the September meeting. We did have a July 10th meeting for a final review, but we had to reschedule at the request of the union. So we're now meeting the 23rd of August to go again final revisions, technical revisions. And Bill Kelly has been appointed Assistant Fire Marshal. He has already started that position. All right. I am finished. And it looks like Rich is probably held up at his other meeting in another town.
I thought he was on the road.
That's what he said. That was 22 minutes ago. So I'm not sure.
It looks he's showing up on my computer.
Oh, remote.
I just got here.
Oh, hey, Rich.
Hi. We thought you were coming in.
Sitting at the door.
Thank God we stopped talking about you.
You traveled quickly.
It's all good, Rich.
No, I'm an hour away, so I figured I'd sit here in a parking lot.
Oh, thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Rich.
All right, well, we're ready to do that. We don't have to go into executive session now. Woohoo! Okay, so where are we on the agenda?
7A.
7A.
It's the only thing left.
Yes, I see it. I kind of crossed it out. Old business, discussion, possible action, artistic crosswalks.
So, you have in your package a draft, a revised draft, revised 3 times as a result of the last discussion meeting with the town council. The last revision was done in July 11th for the July 15th meeting, which we did not discuss. Rich worked on this revision, and I made a couple of minor revisions that he looked at. And so right now, this is what is being proposed if you want a policy.
Rich, do you want to walk us through anything? Or do you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally the change from the last policy that was discussed is that this kind of pivots from the public comes in with suggestions and makes requests, and then there's a formal vetting process and reviews and so forth, to one where the council and the town have greater flexibility because it's structured to be the town's determination. People can come in and make suggestions. They go to the town manager. He works with staff. They bring it to the council, and ultimately it's the council's decision, and the town retains all legal and functional control. So I think that scenario avoids some of the pitfalls that were reflected by the prior draft, while still allowing the project to go forward.
Gotcha. Ray, did you say you made a couple of tweaks? Do you want to point those out?
Well, before I get into that, the third paragraph on the first page. I mean, I think that's like the priority. The paragraph that spells out what Rich was saying about, it's not a public forum. It's an expression of the town council, an expression of the government. If you want to paint a crosswalk, and that concept is carried through a few other sections within this document. My revisions were simplifying the procedure process. Originally, we were looking at a committee. I cut the committee out. It would be staff request to come to the town manager's office. I'd send it out to the various staff departments for review to make sure that they have everything that they need within this document. And then the installation would be with the approval of engineering, highway superintendent, and also under their supervision, the work would be carried out to make sure it was done correctly with the proper paint and make sure that we complied with the crosswalk requirements as far as line striping on both sides of the crosswalk. So it's still a process, but it's a simplified process.
You want to put a motion on?
Can I just point out a couple of proposed revisions to the language, or do you want to do that after the motion has been made and seconded?
Yeah, let's do it during discussion, so that way we can.
You got it there?
So I'll make a motion to approve the artistic sidewalk policy as presented in our, crosswalk policy. I keep going to sidewalk. Crosswalk policy as presented in our meeting packet.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, just a couple of points, and I do want to say this has really improved tremendously from version to version, but just a couple of instances where I think some old language kind of hung in there from previous versions back when the original document seemed to suggest more of a public forum kind of a thing. So just a couple of very specific suggestions. On the first page, under purposes, in the first paragraph, on the second line, it says where and how to allow artistic crosswalks. I'm not comfortable with the word allow because that seems to suggest inviting people to do their own thing, which is, again, sort of what the original concept seemed to suggest. So I propose where it says allow artistic crosswalks, I would replace that with place artistic crosswalks. So procedures for where and how to place artistic crosswalks rather than allowing them. That's my first suggestion. And then later on that page, we have 4 bullet points under purpose. And the 4th bullet point says artistic freedom of expression and non-discrimination. I propose to delete that bullet point because, again, what talks about artistic freedom, it seems to be suggesting a form of other people's speech. And my third and final suggestion is page where, let's see, which page is this? The second page. And right above the section where it says procedure, the sentence says the town may reject works that it considers offensive for this reason. I would make it broader. I would say the town may reject proposed works for any reason. I don't want to hamstring the town's ability to reject a proposal for for whatever grounds may present themselves. So I propose those 3 revisions as friendly amendments to the motion before the council.
I'll accept
Yeah, I think those are all good.
Go ahead, Rick.
He said he thinks they're all good.
Yep, and I'll accept those items as a friendly amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ray.
Can I just make a comment here? Do you want to look at location? I know there's been discussion in the past about allowing it townwide or restricting it to the municipal government campus only. Is that still an issue with the council? Because this, the way this is written, it's any existing crosswalk on a road that does not exceed 30 miles per hour. So that can be anywhere with that. A lot of school zones have these crosswalks in their area. If that's fine, that's fine. I mean, I just want to bring that up.
Actually, yeah, I mean, that's a good point, right? Have we discussed a crosswalk on a state road versus town road?
No state road. We're not allowed. This is only local.
Okay.
I just have a question for Bill. So when you struck that language in bullet number 4, you struck "and non-discrimination." I don't know how to read it properly, but I'm just concerned that maybe that needs to be reworded.
Well, I guess
You struck the whole bullet point.
the full bullet point.
Yeah, but you're comfortable with that?
With striking-
Striking the non-discrimination?
Well, but the way I construed non-discrimination, part and parcel with artistic freedom, is
Okay, yeah.
as discriminating
Against the artist.
some issues. Yeah,
Yeah.
that sort of thing, right?
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Can I make a couple of comments?
Yeah.
So the first piece is, by putting in I have an issue with the crosswalk policy being crosswalks. And my concern is strictly towards public safety. The policy states that we have to have a minimum of 2 white lines. And as Ray just stated, the state of Connecticut doesn't allow it on state roads. So we're creating our own hazard and own safety issue by putting a crosswalk on any of the town roads. I think we're opening ourselves up to a potential issue. I'm not opposed to government speech. I think there's some criterias that we need to look at if we're going to have artwork as a program within town. And I think the artwork needs to be temporary, because if we're going to have multiple requests, we can't just have it as a permanent piece of artwork. So there has to be a preset timetable. And by making this crosswalk policy it's going to be a permanent installation. I also think we need to establish a location in town that we should be doing the artwork. And, as Ray was asking, we shouldn't have the ability to have 20-plus installations around town. That's not the intent here. I don't know what the volume of requests we're going to receive are, but I could actually see this becoming a council agenda on a regular item to approve the recommendations, and I don't think that's the best use of council time. I'm opposed to the crosswalk policy, but I'm really not opposed to the artwork or supporting some form of government speech. I think the Commission on Inclusion and Innovation presented a concept to the council of a crosswalk, primarily for their recommendation was towards the LGBTQ plus community with a pride crosswalk. I don't oppose that concept. I just don't think it should be a crosswalk. I would even turn to the commission and ask them to come back with something that may fit that model to still meet their vision and move forward the concept of government speech. But I just think we're opening up ourselves to some exposure if we're just covering the minimum requirements of the state of Connecticut.
Can I respond to a couple of those points? So first of all, I did propose, and the amendment was accepted, that the council has the discretion to reject any proposal for any reason at all. And so, I think that's of critical importance. I also think that the fact that the state does not allow any artwork on state roads, I don't necessarily infer from that they necessarily think it's a safety hazard. And first of all, even if it is, I mean, town roads, state roads by definition tend to be, higher volume roads, roads that support higher traffic speeds than town roads, et cetera. So, maybe there's a safety element that's more specific to the state than to town. But I don't think the fact that the state doesn't want to deal with it or doesn't allow it, I don't think we necessarily infer from that suggests a safety hazard to allow it on town streets. And indeed, as has been presented to us, there's a number of towns that already have the pride crosswalks on town roads already. There's safe ways to do this. There are guidelines by traffic engineers that are in fact embedded in this, which implies a recognition that there's a way to do it safely. And my final point is I just don't see the concern that if we do one of these that we're then going to be flooded with all types of other demands. Again, there's a number of other towns that have a pride crosswalk. That's the only decorated crosswalk that they have. I'm not aware of any other town where they were then inundated with requests by all types of other groups. And if we feel that we're getting overloaded with this type of request, we just keep saying no. So that's my response to the concerns voiced by Councilor Greenspan.
So I think
if I could comment also.
Go ahead, Mimi.
I agree 100% with Councilor O'Sullivan. I think that's the point of the staff reviewing it, first of all. So if it is in a high traffic area, we may want to say we don't want it in that type of area, find a suitable crosswalk. I don't think we're going to be inundated, and other towns do have this, and we do have the ultimate authority we put in through the amendment, if we accept this, that we can reject for any reason. So if we are inundated, we can come back and revisit and reject them and come up with an additional policy.
Thank you.
I think I spoke about this at the last meeting this was on the agenda. It's kind of similar to what Councilor Greenspan has said, that the crosswalks are basically there for traffic. They're okay. We don't decorate stop signs or yield signs or one-way signs, and I don't think we should decorate crosswalks. It's not to say we shouldn't have some sort of artistic expression in town. There's other ways we can manifest it. There are other towns that have it. I actually drove by two of these crosswalks, not intentionally, just happened to stumble upon them, one in Connecticut, one outside of Connecticut. And I could tell you it's distracting as a driver driving over those. And I couldn't tell you what the artwork was representing. I just saw a bunch of bright, colors or whatever. But I couldn't tell you what message was trying to be conveyed. But I can tell you it's distracting driving over those from a personal experience. So, as Councilor Greenspan said, I'm not opposed to having some sort of town artistic expression for whatever organization we deem. Maybe it's this or others, but I just don't think the crosswalk itself is the right place to do it.
I'd like to add that coming from a public safety background and as well as on public safety committee in town here, the federal government and our state DOT do not allow artistic crosswalks for safety concerns. And I would be concerned for our town. I'm not opposed to maybe putting an artistic crosswalk in a park. We have some parks in town, maybe we could do something there. I'm not opposed to artistic expressions in our town, but I think for a safety aspect of our drivers, just like Councilor Levine said, he was a little distracted looking at it. It could be a potential problem. So based on my background, I wouldn't be able to support this policy as it reads right now with crosswalks on a public road.
I just want to say we've been discussing this for 4 months. We've invested legal effort, staff effort in hammering this out. It has always been about artistic crosswalks. The first time this was raised in April, and here we are 4 months later, and now all of a sudden we're getting a wall of nays kind of out of left field.
Well, like I said, I've talked about this in prior meetings. You can go to the minutes to see it. If you don't believe me, it's in the minutes. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you.
So Ray, where is our engineering department with this? They feel comfortable that this is safe?
Yeah, Steve wrote the process portion of it, the materials to be used. The MUTCD, which is the engineering manual that FHWA and probably all other state agencies incorporate, they don't prohibit the use of what they call aesthetic surface treatments or artistic crosswalks, as long as they use the right materials and the colors are not traffic colors like the yellow and the red, and so they're distinct from traffic directional markings. And you have to have the white lines. Everything has to be within those 2 white traverse lines. Steve will be reviewing every application, so I'm not sure how many we'll get through. We all know Steve. He's a stickler for for the technical aspect.
Yeah.
He probably prefers not to have them, but he is aware that they are utilized, and if it's done right, it minimizes any superficial danger, I guess, if you use the right material.
Does he anticipate us needing to have some type of additional signage to alert people that they're approaching a crosswalk?
I don't think that came up.
Okay.
Something here.
What was that?
No, because I'm just imagining when you come up, just so folks recognize that they are approaching a crosswalk.
Well, if
because
it's
if
in this
painted.
area, we already have the crosswalk standard sign. We also
Okay.
have the little guy in the middle of our municipal campus area already. We have 5 crosswalks in this area. Old Main Street, Church Street.
Without the brick.
Oh no, total 5. No, without the brick.
Without the brick, yeah. Okay. And then what I didn't see is who's paying for this.
Really?
I could have missed it. Did I miss it?
It definitely would not be the town.
Well.
Finance director didn't approve that.
I would think that the proposer would be responsible for getting the funding, whether they do a GoFundMe or whether they do it themselves. I would assume that would, because the town should not be paying for it.
That used to be.
Yeah, that was, I think, in the original. That must have been, I must have taken that out by accident. But I heard a voice. It's under procedure.
On a bullet point, maintenance plan and funding source.
Right.
Well, no, because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's discretionary. It says you submit something, and it may include some or all of this. It might include a design. It might include the colors. It might include funding. So I guess my second question was, why did we change? Why did we add may at the end of that? Why did we make this now suddenly discretionary when before?
That should be changed to shall.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Wait, because I have notes. I just kind of have to go through them.
It says shall include some or all. It should say shall include all the following items.
It should be shall include all.
Shall include the following items, yeah.
Well, I think I want to find a middle ground here, okay? Because I think we have safety concerns from someone who is in the field of safety, right? And I don't want to opine because I don't know about the safety, but I did read a lot about it. And there's a reason why, the state DOT doesn't do this. And I agree, state roads are different, but Glastonbury Avenue is a small road. It's a state road. We have a bazillion little state roads here. And I think it is telling to safety when we talk about design and not having white, yellow, or red, because that is specifically in all of those handbooks, because it does become distracting, to your point. And so I guess the question is, what is the middle ground? And I do like Councillor Whalen's idea of like a park, right? Because we already have speed humps. People aren't necessarily slowing down. I want to find a common ground. I like the idea of sending it back to the commission to solve it for us. I mean, that's a good solution, and maybe their solution is let's add the location component, and that is the parks. That's where my mind is.
Add parks and crosswalks, or just parks?
No, I'm thinking if we're going to come to a middle ground, it would be parks or sidewalks. I don't know. Something where where we don't have the safety concern, but we can still allow a project to go forward. I mean, do we want to send it back to the commission for them to give us feedback on it?
Or do we need more, perhaps specialized information about the safety features here that have been raised, or the safety issues? Because we do have some criteria that are, again, embedded in this that I assume are drawn from some traffic engineering resources, but perhaps we just need more information along those lines to allay the concerns that have been expressed here.
Well, I think part of the background research that you did, Ray, with other towns, wouldn't there have been some discussions about public safety concerns?
Well, and we did have those discussions with people from other towns when we went to CCM's event, and there were people who said, don't do it, town managers and mayors, and then there was a mayor who did do it, right? So that's why I think we have to.
Yeah, many of them, some of the research I did, they reference the manual, the MUTCD manual, which is the traffic engineers manual for nationwide for all design requirements, design standards for all roads and highways. And the most recent interpretation is December 19th, 2023, and this would be incorporated into, would be like an attachment as an addendum to the manual. You want me to read it to you?
The whole manual?
It's not that bad.
No, I mean, my concern is, I'll echo what Bill said, that, we were discussing this 4 months ago, and it just seems like this current discussion, it's being derailed from the original intent of a crosswalk. And I just don't agree with pushing it back to a committee or finding out more about public safety. I think this should have come up months ago while this was being developed. I'm just a little concerned that we're pushing this back constantly.
Well, I think that's a gross misinterpretation of what's happening. It's a review process, and we've been waiting and waiting, and here's where we are.
Yeah, we looked at safety, and if we use the right paint, non-reflective paint and the proper colors and the proper designs, so they don't interfere with safety, which would be determined by the town engineer and the highway superintendent. FHWA, they emphasize that agencies that wish to employ surface treatments for aesthetic purposes in various scenarios have the flexibility to do so, as applicable federal, state, and local laws and policies allow. However, MUTCD does not prohibit the use of aesthetic surface treatments, including visually complex treatments, the designs of which might be characterized as more artistic in their composition.
So, Councilor Whalen, let me ask you, as your former role, and I probably shouldn't do that. I don't know that that's appropriate, so I'm not going to ask you for your opinion. But when it says "as state allows," does that bring us back to the DOT conversation about safety?
I would think so.
The state, they don't have control over local roads.
So the only people who have control over local roads is the MUTCD. It's just us. And so when we say, okay, we want to do something on our roads, like the stop sign, right? We look at this. We don't look at DOT.
No, Steve looks at this, the manual. And also, DOT regulates speed limits on local roads and certain other types of traffic.
Calming measures.
Signage.
Yeah.
But they do not regulate this. They don't come in and prohibit it.
But they don't do it.
They don't do it
State
on the
roads.
state road, not that I know of anyway.
Right.
Middletown, they have two. They have a Pride crosswalk, and then down on Main Street, then they have another Veterans crosswalk.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Veterans crosswalk even has white lines on, the traverse lines.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like we have enough guidelines here that specific proposals can be evaluated, scrutinized by the staff on a case-by-case basis, including the specific safety issues for a particular location. We have the staff that who will consult the guidelines with respect to the type of paint, any signs that may be required, these other criteria that are already in place. But there's a difference between having guidelines, which is what we're discussing here, and the merits of any specific proposal and any concerns that come up. And any specific proposal will first be vetted at the staff level, and then in final analysis will be voted up or down by the council on a proposal by proposal basis. So I feel like for purposes of guidelines, is what we're discussing right now, with the modifications that we've discussed today, I think we have enough. And then if we have a safety concern about a particular proposal, that can be thoroughly aired when the issue comes up. And if majority thinks it's an unsafe proposal, we'll vote it down.
But if Steve is hesitant, why is Steve hesitant?
He's not hesitant. He, like I said,
You said he probably wouldn't like it, but that was just more in jest.
No, he's an engineer, and, you know, engineers follow the manual, you know, to a T. They like to do that. You know, as I said, the last edition of this, under installation, there were quite a few very detailed criteria, which we will implement, you know, staff-wise, as far as, you know, the paint and the application, and if there's signage that he thinks needs signage, he may require that. And if he doesn't feel safe, then he'll recommend, you know, I won't even get here.
Mm-hmm. And then the whole temporary versus permanent, how long does this last?
We don't address that in this, I don't believe. I think this would be, according to the policy,
In
there's no
perpetuity?
timeline. Yeah.
Although it says at the end, the town may remove it at any time.
Yeah, but I think the intent was to have this permanent, as opposed maybe every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, a new design could be implemented at that crosswalk.
Removing it is different from just allowing it to fade. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kind of two
it's-
different things, I suppose.
You have to paint black paint over it, and then keep painting. Or if it's time to pave, you gotta rip it up and repave it.
So is our responsibility then to paint over it if it fades?
No.
No. Do we have to put that in here? I don't know. Is there an
I don't
expectation, like
What if-
once it
what if-
starts to look crappy, like someone's got to take care of it?
What if the original sponsors disappear after a year? Who's responsible for it? If the paint fades, who pays for fixing it if the sponsors aren't there anymore?
Well, if the paint fades, you can either leave it fading as long as we have the 2 traverse lines, and if the town doesn't like the way it looks, they would have to go and just paint it black. Because the fading would be inside the white lines.
Who paints it? Well, who paints it black? But if the original intent, like even for a Pride crosswalk, if after a year it's fading or something doesn't look regular,
Well,
and the sponsors of that and who paid for it disappear, who's responsible?
So one of the criteria, the bullet points that we made mandatory, it previously said may include, now says must include. The last bullet point is a maintenance plan and funding source, which I assume is the funding source for the maintenance plan.
We could require a bond be posted or some type of escrow account be posted with the finance department.
Yeah.
To hang on to for future maintenance in the event we need it.
And there could be a proviso that if the sponsor or whomever is supposed to provide the maintenance ceases to exist or can't come up with the money, that the town then, you know, can paint it over or do what
With that fund.
seems appropriate.
Anybody else?
Just when this is.
Or you could have part of the financing be, you know, the equivalent of a decommissioning bond.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you decommission artwork, right.
Thank you.
So includes a can of black paint?
Non-reflective. Right. Yeah. I mean, as I said, I'm not opposed to the art process. Do we have other options besides a crosswalk? What are there other options within town that could be done? Some of the criteria remains the same: maintenance, permanence of the piece. What happens when the next applicant comes in? How long do they have to wait if there is a next applicant? Those are the kind of questions I'm posing outside of the safety piece. You know,
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
no, it was, gee, I'm used to that.
I mean, to those points, Alan, it would, I would think we could give it 6 months, see what happens, and then amend it as we see fit.
You know, it is a policy, so the town council can just say, we don't like the policy anymore, and
Right.
take it away.
All right. Well, here's the thing. We can do that. We can do it as a pilot, or we can add locations. So, Councilor Whalen, do you feel strongly about adding locations?
I would. I don't want to do it on a public road, town road.
But you would support
Wanna
it
do
elsewhere?
support, Park, something of that nature, I would support it.
Okay. Would you support that?
I'd be more comfortable in a park where, you know, we have a much lower speed limit, a lot more people walking. Yeah, not being on a public roadway, more of a, I could work with that.
I would support that as well.
I'm trying to find a middle ground.
So are we talking about crosswalks across the internal roads within our parks, or just randomly like on the driving surface? What are we talking about here? You're saying in the parks.
I don't think we can create a new crosswalk, right? I think they have to be I think, yeah.
In the town road existing.
Yeah.
In a park.
But if you're saying it's in a park, then I'm just trying to picture when I'm driving through Elmridge Park, you get those speed humps. I guess, are there crosswalks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Within? So is that what we're talking about, putting it on those limited to crosswalks?
Well,
within a
what are you
park?
talking about?
You enter Elmridge Park, right off Elm Street, there's a crosswalk right there.
So you're saying limit to the existing crosswalks that we have
In
that are
the parks.
internal within our parks? I don't know.
That's what I'm
I don't know if any park in town besides Elm Ridge even has crosswalks. Maxwell.
I'm not sure about the other ones, but I know Elm Ridge does.
Yeah, but that's the only one I can think of.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody else knows.
I mean, I don't know if it has to be a crosswalk in the park either.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is that what we're talking about? Is it just something that you could put on the painted surface, not so in a crosswalk, or are you saying it has to be a crosswalk within the park system, of which there may only be one or two in town? You know, if you're talking about a crosswalk within a park and the only ones that exist are one or two in Elm Ridge, then looks like that's the universe of possibilities we're talking about here.
I mean, personally speaking, I'd be open to leaving some openness to where you say in a park, whether you do it in a parking area or a crosswalk in a park, or, I mean.
Or
it's
even
not case by
the
case
humps.
park, but
Right, the humps too.
I'm just trying to get off the public streets, the crosswalks
Right.
on the streets. That's my.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up an interesting concept. because
Okay.
I've gone through a few, and I'm not talking about Rocky Hill High School in particular, but if you go to other towns' high schools, they actually paint the parking spaces. The seniors will personalize their parking space. So if you did that within the park, and they picked a space that's not in a roadway, and we don't have a safety issue to it. I'm not gonna say every parking space should be done, but
I mean, arguably, you don't have to change the policy. You can just add and parking spaces and X number of parking spaces. Because then you open up your parks, other parks, right? I think that's a reasonable concession.
You actually might have more opportunities to have the artwork that way than based on the limitations of the crosswalks anyway that are provided.
So we're saying roads and parking lots? Is that what we're talking about? Town roads and town parking lots?
I'm against the town roads, flat out.
I think what there's,
I'll work in the park with it myself.
I think what Alan was adding to his park is that let's add these, you know, it could be a student thing, add the parking spaces, add those two spaces that can be painted.
As well as any type of sidewalk and also even the crosswalks within the park.
The speed hump.
Right,
I'm apprehensive
Multiple
about the speed
opportunities
hump,
within
but
the park itself to.
well, you open up your parks, right? You have more parks, not just Elm Ridge Park.
I just want to be careful that we're not going to have 30 different installations.
That's exactly, I was just going to say that.
And that was one of my points. I mean, I
Well,
was looking for,
well, we could just limit it. We can say 5 spots per park.
yeah.
Oh, man, have we complicated this?
It still has to go through
Sorry.
committee, so that's where they would say do we have to put a limit on it? They would know when we're at that limit.
There's no committee anymore. They did away with it.
So it would be us, Mimi.
It's in front of the council. It's
Council.
But I think really you can add a number. I don't think we don't have to hem and haw over it.
Wouldn't we still have, want Steve to be able to know if it's the right kind of paint and if
Well,
it's
yeah,
deteriorating?
yeah.
We don't
Oh,
want that
yeah, but not necessarily,
deteriorating.
yeah, but not necessarily like, okay, now we're adding a sidewalk and now we're adding 10 parking spaces and the crosswalk. I think that's all.
I just feel this has mushroomed. I mean, it was a proposal for one specific design on one crosswalk on one location in town, and now we're getting into this,
Well, no, I
this
thought it was supposed to
notion.
be a broad policy about artistic in town.
This policy doesn't say just one crosswalk, could be anywhere
Which
in town.
crosswalk were we?
It's,
I didn't- we
it
didn't talk about
it started with one very specific request for a pride crosswalk, just one crosswalk, and we wanted to put some guardrails around it to address safety concerns and legal concerns, which I think were the two main categories we were concerned about. It just feels like we have gotten so far afield, I don't even know what we would be voting on right now, quite frankly.
Okay, well, do you want to put a friendly amendment on the table to limit the crosswalks to those that exist in our public parks and potentially other spaces?
Possible, because we have some friendly amendments already. Does mine supersede Bill's? Excuse me.
Yeah, because
Contradicts what-
he's already
Yeah.
made a couple.
I
Yeah,
don't think it contradicts what he said, though. It just adds to it.
yeah, nothing has changed. It's just location. We're just discussing location for purposes of reaching a consensus.
So we're saying within parks and eliminating it from town roads.
That's my take on it. But
So that you have a friendly amendment on the table?
I could do one, but do I bump his? or-
No.
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 No, it's just another one.
So he's going to do public roads, and then I'll say no.
No, he didn't make it a friendly amendment about public roads.
Okay, I'll make a friendly amendment that, in my eyes, the safety concern of putting artistic crosswalks on public road is unsafe, but I would move artistic work into our town parks, either through a crosswalk or parking spaces.
So I'll second that.
You accept it?
Or accept it. Well,
Yeah.
do you have to accept
I
it?
have to accept it.
Will you accept it?
Yeah, I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. And so now we'll have a motion?
I'm not sure I can make a motion with all these changes.
I feel like there have been so many amendments
Yes.
that we would need to see another written draft this for another meeting. That this, I feel like it's very difficult to keep track of what we'd be voting for at this point. And I hate to see it postponed again, but there's just too many revisions, too many.
Well, you must have them written down. Do you have them written down?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Revision number 1, paragraph. You talking about all the typos too? Okay.
Well,
Paragraph-
okay, wait, before you do that, though, you're going to have to, he's going to have to make a motion.
Correct, so I'm going to have to,
Okay, you're going
yes.
to, okay, go ahead. He's ready.
Oh.
Yeah.
Revision number 1, under purposes, second paragraph, eliminate the word allow and substitute
Allow.
No, which line?
Second.
line 2,
Second paragraph.
line 2, where and how to delete allow and replace with place.
Place. Okay. And now we're taking public roadways
Now,
out.
right. You want to limit it to crosswalks, you need to delete crosswalks or add to crosswalks and parking spaces.
And then take out the on public roads and
Mhm.
make it in public parks.
Okay.
So paragraph 2, under purposes, we have to take out second sentence, artistic sidewalks on public roads.
Artistic crosswalks in
And
public
public
parks.
spaces.
Where's that?
Parks.
Where's that?
Second full
Second
paragraph,
second line.
under purposes,
Artistic crosswalks.
in public,
or
in public
Parking spaces.
parks.
In public parks. Yeah, as you get into this, you have to start revising more and more.
I think it's.
Yeah, because we're talking about crosswalks, you got to say.
Yeah, I think we're gonna,
All right,
I'm kind of looking
Okay.
at Bill saying, not, under the next sentence, we have to,
Right.
and then as we go through the whole document, crosswalks have to, it all has to be revised throughout the whole document.
Right.
okay.
So, Ray, would it be possible to circulate a draft with these changes prior to the next council meeting? And maybe we have a special meeting just to discuss this and move it forward? Or vote on it? So I'd hate to wait till the middle of September.
I'll have Daniel send out an email to see who can attend, see, if pick a date, we can do that.
I think the first thing is we should see a revised draft before we,
All right, can we put that like down for, 7 days, like a week? To figure that out? Have it revised and sent out? It should be simple to revise it.
It should be.
In regards to the motion, are we withdrawing the motion?
I think that's going to be the next step.
Yeah. Just so I'm clear then, so we're talking about crosswalks within the, existing crosswalks within the, or that are on the internal roads within our parks. And then, but there's been talk about parking spaces, I still don't really get that part,
It's another option, because not all parks have a crosswalk,
right?
so it's another option
So you're saying in the parking lot, you're saying in
Yeah.
the parking spaces, but you're talking about in the parking lot.
of those.
No, in the parking space, between the two lines.
Well, why would you want a parking space where it's gonna be covered by whoever's parked there? I mean, I think you'd want it in the driving lane within the parking lot, so people can see it. Why would you limit it to the spaces?
Just historically, that's what the high schoolers do in their parking lot. They like to do that. They like to claim it, but it doesn't have to be. I don't think we have to worry.
How about artwork in public parking lots, and then that artwork would have to be reviewed
Yeah, I think that's
internally and then
fine.
approved by the town?
General, yeah.
But maybe it's not the stall,
Right.
the 9x18, it could be part of the aisle, it could be
That's what I'm thinking.
some type of
Or it could be an internal sidewalk, too.
artwork and internal sidewalks.
Okay, so, all right. You're going to withdraw your
Yeah,
motion?
I will withdraw the motion on the
Sorry, Fran.
artistic crosswalks.
Okay,
And then we're going to try to get a revised version, then we'll try to do a special meeting to push that through.
okay. You think we could do that within a week?
If we can get a meeting, yeah, we'll
Okay.
have to bump
Well, we could do Zoom. We don't want to come back
Okay.
for a special meeting for 2 minutes, yeah.
2 minutes.
Oh,
That's optimistic.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I suggest like we reach out to each other, the chair, whatever we're called, majority, minority leader, caucus, and so that when we come back, there's, it's worked out. If we have to send it back, we send it back, but we don't have to do this again,
that makes sense.
right? Yeah.
9 of us trying to wordsmith this is
Yeah.
not going to work.
There's a
So
lot of,
we'll
lot of
table,
changes.
you'll table it to special meeting to be announced.
Okay. All right. Poor Maya.
That means she has to come back later.
We have no executive
Special
session.
meeting. We still got executive.
Okay. Shall we
Need a
move?
motion to go to executive session?
Yes.
You got a hand?
Yep. So I'll make a motion to go to executive session pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-210B9, with the town manager, director of human resources and legal compliance, and director of finance and operations, RE records, reports, statements of strategy, or negotiations with respect to collective bargaining for UE Local 222 CILP CIPU number 39, library employees.
Second.
All in favor? Rich, are you still there? He's like, I'm out of here.
Yep.
Oh, Rich, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Sure, no problem at all.
All right, we'll see you soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.